Meet Richard, perfectly ordinary, mostly happy. Richard considered himself a simple man. He loved his wife, enjoyed his work, and cherished his Sunday roasts. Married to Amelia for 10 years, their life was comfortable, predictable, perhaps a little too predictable at times. Amelia's parents, however, were anything but predictable. They were a whirlwind of expensive holidays, loud opinions, and flamboyant displays of affection, a stark contrast to Richard's own reserved upbringing. Amelia, bless her heart, adored her parents. She craved their attention, basked in their chaos. Richard, on the other hand, approached their visits with a sense of trepidation, a feeling that intensified with each passing year. Little did he know, this year's visit would change everything. It wasn't his father-in-law's booming laughter or his constant need to one-up everyone's stories that would throw his life into a tailspin. No, this time, the catalyst for disaster wore a silk scarf and a knowing smile. This time, the chaos had a name: Veronica. Enter Veronica, a force of nature in silk and Chanel. Veronica, Amelia's mother, a woman who seemed perpetually draped in silk scarves and the faint scent of expensive perfume. From the moment she swept into their home, air-kissing everyone in sight, Richard felt a tremor of unease. Her eyes, a striking emerald green, seemed to linger on him a beat too long, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. He brushed it off, of course. Veronica was, after all, his wife's mother. It was absurd, unthinkable. Yet, as the evening progressed, he found himself hyper-aware of her presence. The way her laughter seemed to target him, the brush of her hand against his arm during dinner, a touch too lingering to be accidental. Richard felt a knot of confusion tightening in his chest. This wasn't right. This was Veronica, Amelia's mother. Stolen glances and whispered compliments, the seed is planted. The days that followed were a blur of shared meals, forced pleasantries, and a growing sense of disquiet within Richard. Veronica, it seemed, was determined to single him out. Whispered compliments about his tie, his humor, his intense gaze, stolen glances across the dinner table, laden with unspoken meaning. He tried to rationalize it, convince himself it was all in his head. Maybe this was just how Veronica was, a harmless flirt. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been sown. A seed that sprouted into a twisted sapling of attraction, fueled by Veronica's blatant attention and his own unspoken desires. He loved Amelia, he truly did. But Veronica, with her knowing smiles and air of worldly experience, was an intoxicating enigma he found impossible to ignore. The tension that had been simmering beneath the surface finally boiled over at a dinner party hosted by Amelia's parents. Surrounded by friends and family, Richard found himself trapped in a dangerous dance with Veronica. Their conversations became increasingly intimate, their laughter laced with double entendres. He knew it was wrong, reckless even, yet he found himself powerless to resist. As the evening wore on, fueled by champagne and stolen glances, Richard found himself alone with Veronica on the terrace. The city lights twinkled below, a backdrop to the unfolding drama. And then it happened. A touch, a kiss, a transgression that shattered the fragile facade of normalcy. Guilt and desire warred within him, a potent cocktail that left him reeling. The following days were a haze of shame and confusion. Richard could barely look at Amelia, the weight of his betrayal a leaden cloak on his shoulders. Veronica, on the other hand, seemed unfazed, her demeanor a strange mix of amusement and possessiveness. The guilt was a living thing, gnawing at his insides. Sleep offered no escape, only a relentless replay of that night on the terrace. He had betrayed Amelia, shattered their comfortable life for a fleeting moment of illicit pleasure. The truth, as it always does, eventually came out. The revelation was like a bomb detonating in their seemingly perfect lives. Amelia, heartbroken and furious, demanded answers, her trust irrevocably broken. Veronica, for once, seemed to have lost her composure, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. The consequences were swift and brutal. Amelia demanded a separation, the pain in her eyes a constant reminder of his betrayal. His in-laws, once a source of amusement and mild annoyance, were now a source of icy silence. Alone in his guilt and regret, Richard finally understood the true cost of his actions. He had risked everything, his marriage, his family, his own sense of self, for a fleeting moment of temptation. The road ahead was uncertain, the path to redemption long and arduous. He had hurt Amelia deeply, and the possibility of forgiveness seemed a distant hope. Richard knew he had a long way to go, both in atoning for his sins and in learning from his mistakes. The experience, though painful, had been a harsh lesson in the seductive power of temptation and the devastating consequences of succumbing to its allure.